Was good, folks? Dai Good Talk in the building. We have a special guest. We'll just go ahead and let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valdez, and I am a counseling psychologist by profession, and I'm happy to be here on Dai Good Talk.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
So
Yay.
Yeah.
we're gonna
Karen, you
dive.
have no manners.
We're gonna dive right in.
Karen, did you say hi?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right,
All
good.
right.
Don't forget our sponsors, Ladneck Limited, best cleaning company in Trinidad and Tobago. So we're gonna start with a few questions. First question would be, can you briefly describe your background in the field of mental health?
Yes, I can. I have been practicing for 11 years. Right. I, as I mentioned before, counseling psychologist by profession, experience in both the public and private sectors. So I would have worked Student Support Services Ministry of Education in secondary schools, and then, of course, various entities within the private sector. So I see individuals and couples and not children. They're great. I love them. I just don't need to hear the trauma. So
Too heavy?
Yeah. That's a lot.
It's too
It's too heavy.
heavy. Okay.
Some,
Yeah.
some dark stuff.
Yeah, like, and I just feel
But
like
what age? What age is the lock-off point?
for me, like, I could do like 16 and up,
Right. Okay.
but my preference is adults.
Right.
Right.
So adults and couples.
Okay. So, what inspired you to become a mental health professional?
I always thought I could give real good advice, and then I realized that's absolutely nothing to do with that. So, but I always liked helping people. My parents were public servants. My mom was a primary school teacher. My dad was a police officer. So it was just natural helping people. And I realized around 14, 15, I had an affinity to listening and helping people with their problems. So it just kind of took off from there.
Okay, but so building off of that, as you mentioned, I think everybody who thinks that they give sound advice can feel as a way. You are like my therapist, you know? But you said you realized that it wasn't about that.
Yeah.
Like, what is that distinct element about your profession that you realize is more than giving advice?
It's really guidance. That's how I see it. Like, I get to accompany you on your journey as we try to sort through whatever's happening, because nobody knows you better than yourself. It's just that there are some elements that me, being an outsider, I could assist in bringing out for you.
Right.
So, and I also don't want to be anybody's scapegoat. So I tell my clients that, like, if you're looking for advice, this is not the place for you, right? I want to create a space where we could go through certain things and I could guide you, but every decision that you make is yours.
How do you differentiate advice versus guidance?
Because I'm not telling you what to do.
Right. So,
Yes.
so like you're navigating
So
person's emotions.
I might suggest here and there, but generally, like, I stay away from saying, no, you should do this, which is what a friend would tell you to do. You know, you should do this. In my opinion, get rid of that man. Ting, he ain't good for you.
Right.
I can't, and I won't tell you that.
Right.
I
Because that's
shouldn't
not the
tell you that.
professional thing to do.
It's not the professional thing to do, but there are some people who think that is what you need to hear. But at the end of the day, if you decide now, after I tell him, that man is good, chase him. And you do that, and then you realize, no, I still want him. You'll say, it's only the therapist, only let you go
Start a
because the
blame.
therapist.
Yeah.
Not me. I am no one's scapegoat. You'll make your own decisions and abide by those consequences on your own.
So,
Yeah.
as you mentioned the word trauma just now, right? You think that the word trauma now is being kind of abused, not to downplay on anybody's problems, but
Yeah.
you know, like last year the word was narcissist, and like this year the word is trauma.
Yes.
You think like some
Narcissist
people...
is still trending, sadly.
It is.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of persons
Some
just
people can't even
throw
spell
around-
it.
You can't even define it.
They just throw the word around now, like
Yeah.
for
you
sure.
know?
I think sometimes, as with almost anything, because people are trying to still, I think, get a handle on, I could talk about my stuff, you know, especially culturally, locally. So I think for some people, it's like, well, you know, I had the trauma of XYZ. So there is where we're using the word a little too loosely. But then also, on the other hand, trauma is relative, right? What is traumatic to me may not be traumatic to
That's what I'm
you,
saying.
and
I
vice
don't want
versa.
to downplay anybody's experience. but
Yeah. So
sometimes people just kind of making yourself the victim kind of way.
Yes.
It's like
yes.
experience that not worthy of saying, well, that traumatic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think again, I'm very careful, as you have
Yeah.
implied that you also are. So it just important to keep in mind that everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, but depending on the context and the situation, all those nuances play a role in how you hold somebody accountable in a situation for certain things. If that makes sense.
I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Would you say that, well, as you was mentioning earlier, about
Mm-hmm.
you only work with, but your preference is 16 and above.
Yeah.
Would you say that is that age gap, well, that age preference is because your clients would be more likely to listen to you, or they're easily, well, not easily, but they're more likely to listen, or they're moldable in a sense,
No.
rather than the early teens?
More like it's easier for them to express themselves. So a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, there might be certain things that maybe they just also don't have the language for. But when you're older, there's a bit more, in my mind, a better ability to express exactly what might be going on with you. Yes. And because one of the theoretical orientations I use is a lot of homework, cognitive behavioral therapy. So you have to be able to take what we do and within the session and be able to kind of do that within your life. And because adolescents are changing so much, right? Their brains are still forming and all of that. So certain things may be, in my estimation, a little bit difficult to get to the point where I would like us to be. So for me, that's where my preference is. And again, as I said, it's a little heavy, you know? So I remember being in Ministry of Education at that time, and there was like a 5-year-old who was assaulted sexually. I can't. No, thank you. It's okay.
So as you mentioned that, how do you then, because yes, it is traumatic dealing with a child. I guess it's just too heavy. But as adults, there are lots of adults
Yeah.
who may even present themselves as children,
Yeah.
even as adults, because they can't move past their trauma. So how do you separate your own experiences from becoming too intertwined, or separating your emotions, your experiences from what persons may express? Like, how do you deal with that?
I think for me it really has just been, well, part of it is training, because when you go to school, they do train you and encourage keeping that distance. I have my own therapist, which also helps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Must offload.
So the
Must
therapist
Yeah.
has a therapist.
yeah, I
must
have my
offload.
own therapist, and she's amazing. And
Necessary.
so for work that helps, but also because I have my own stuff too. So, and then you have to be mindful and aware. As somebody in the mental health profession, what are your triggers? What are some of your wounds that, if you realize you're being just feeling it too deeply, that you're being triggered, then it's up to you to be like, okay, I can't manage this client.
Right.
Or if it's a particular area, it might be something that you choose not to deal with as a result, in terms of who you treat. And then, of course, having a good support system and making sure that you have that downtime so you could decompress. So even something as simple as I try to have like a half hour in between my sessions just so that I could breathe, because
Easier.
it's a lot. Some people are able to go back to back. I can't do that. I need at least minimum half hour in between.
Well, at least you're aware.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, at least you're not trying to fool yourself, but as you say, mental health, right? You see it necessary, or how beneficial you think it could be for people to have like a mental health day, like once a month?
I
You see
think-
that being like a staple?
I think is an ideal. But in this country, I also know that there would be people who might abuse it. And I think that's the concern. That's the concern.
Oh, again, one day for the month.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
well,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
tap Let's tap into our cultural handling of mental health.
Yeah.
As a
It's
topic.
it's obsolete.
No, that's Karen's experience. So let's. So we can watch it on both ends, obviously.
Yeah.
We all have jobs. We all
Yes.
function.
Yes.
We all live in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
So you are on the end of the professional, and then we are the ones who may feel overwhelmed by our,
Yeah.
and even yourself included, as you mentioned. So, what is your experience as a professional dealing with our culture towards mental health awareness, and then how we handle or prioritize or even identify
Yeah.
mental health issues?
I think it's growing. So over the past maybe 20 years or so, you would have seen the introduction of a lot of people would have incorporated wellness. That was a buzz term, right? So wellness, everybody's on-
Self-care.
Yes, self-care, mental health and well-being. So you're hearing those things. A lot of companies now have employee assistance programs, right? So there is, at least on the work front, you have access to it because that is, I think, a misconception that a lot of people hold, that mental health care is inaccessible.
Right.
Right? There are people who say that is only for rich people, that is only for white people, we can't afford that. Right? So you have that option, that aspect. You also have the aspect where people say, you know, that's for mad people and I'm not mad, so I good. That's for weak people and I'm not weak, so I good. Right? So you do have that. I have older men, you know, who will come into session and like, I did not want to come here because for me, I struggle and I know I need help, but this makes me seem weak and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think you have people who are very open, of course, maybe people within our age range and younger, they're like, yep, sign
Way
me
more
up, get
receptive.
me that therapy. Let's make a TikTok about it. My therapist on TikTok, like they're open, you know, and then you have older people who like, this is not something that we don't have the language for it and it's very difficult for us. We just probably going to keep it to ourselves. We might talk to some friends. You know, we pray and we move on.
Yeah, because especially for within our culture, it's like keep your business to yourself.
Yeah, it's still taboo
Yeah.
to a large extent, and then we don't trust people. So even with the EAP, some people are like, I don't think that's confidential, so I'm not going to say anything.
What is a
The employee assistance program,
Well,
right?
you see, a lot of persons, they feel this sort of way. And because it has happened, right?
Yes.
Because the person may be around to your office. They might even have our office in your office, knowing, well, for accessibility.
Yeah.
And persons may feel like, wait, boy, the AP and Kendall real good, you know. How am I supposed to tell this person I hate Kendall without this person saying
Yeah.
it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's difficult. And that is why I want to touch back on the mental health day. And and you spoke about wellness as well. Well, my experience, totally opinionated, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do your nails, do your hair. It could be whatever.
Self-care.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But to me, that's like just trying to put a band-aid on a broken foot.
Yeah.
It really not, it works for some people, it can't work for, right? So when you say mental health alone brings awareness to that,
Yeah.
right? So if I say here what, I'm going to award you a mental health day per month. Nobody in this room here could never tell me they stay home from work because they just wasn't feeling to go. Nobody can say they never done that.
Yeah.
It have days they're not feeling it.
Yep.
You may not be sick. You take a sick leave. You
Yeah.
call and say, boy, hey, them the Michael, boss, I'm not coming. You understand? And the thing is, right? So if a persons know, well, some persons know how to deal and treat with stress, right? And I think I deal with mine fairly well. So when you use the term mental health, and again, a person might say, boy, I'm not feeling to come to work today, but I'll take my day next week. And you could plan out what it is you're going to do, and you could see about your own self.
Yeah.
You understand? It's very not suggestive. Some persons may need time with people, away from people, or however you feel on whatever you feel to do on that given day.
Yeah.
You understand? And you say, well, boy, today is my mental day. I'm gonna take it easy today. If you know you're feeling frustrated from a emotional standpoint, physical standpoint, mental standpoint, you could treat with that in the way you need to treat with it. It's not to say, so you can't say, well, boy, I will take this mental day, and it's not to go in the grocery, go up in town, go and do this.
Which
go
is
and
what
that. You
people
could actually,
would, yeah,
you
because
could
we
take
don't
it-
have time.
Exactly, but you could take it to deload because
Yeah.
oftentimes I find myself on a day like today, I honestly didn't get time to do anything. Tomorrow I would not be getting time to do
Yeah.
anything. Saturdays are a busy day for me. Every day is
Every
I'm
day
so
is
busy,
busy.
you understand? And it's like everything just creep up on you last minute, you know what I mean? So I feel like just bringing that, allowing somebody to know, hey, we care for you in a mental aspect. And we're not telling you what to do. You could have this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It may work, it may not work, but all in all, I think that, it's a positive thing.
I would support it.
I've spoken to persons who employ that in their workplace, and it's only positive feedback.
It makes
They
a
get-
difference.
Yeah, you get a better turnout from your staff. Everybody come to work. Everybody seem to be a little more motivated, less complaining. Cause man know he have his day.
And when you feel like people care about you.
Big up Kes.
Yeah.
He have his day, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You will feel like, boy, the boss care about me because really and truly, most mental days are self-approved. You understand what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Because
Yeah.
if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then there are persons who are very not aware of anything at all.
Yeah.
Like they don't know how much stress does affect them. So they will come to the workplace and they will see they always have a problem. They're always grumpy. And like they're really not even sure about what is going on with their own self. They don't know how to treat with their problems. You know what I mean? So everything has pros and cons, but in all, I see it being a beneficial thing.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all.
I think it's one of the better strategies to implement. I personally, I'm not a professional in the field like yourself, but I spoke to persons around the workplace about it, and the type of feedback I get, I feel like everybody was more so for that, because like with the AP, people always had this fear of this man gonna talk my business. Somebody might be like, boy, I can't talk to a therapist, but I can't talk to one in Tobago. Kind of in Trinidad, he might know.
It happens. It
I check
happens.
your Instagram to make sure nobody I know following him.
Which is why, I mean, COVID, of course, horrible thing, but there's out of everybody, there's a good. And in terms of mental health, a lot of people have now become more aware of it, and telehealth is now a thing. So a lot more therapists are providing virtual sessions.
Right.
That wasn't really a thing prior to COVID.
Right, that's comfort.
Yeah,
that is
like,
comforting.
you know, so now
At least in your own zone
you
where
can,
you
can be
and
comfortable.
speak.
Nobody has to see you, because a lot of people have that concern as well. What if somebody sees me going into
Right.
that space and then they know, and you know, so you have that aspect
It's
as
like
well.
when somebody see you pulling in double palm. Like,
Right.
why again they're going on?
One palm, two palm,
Yeah.
double palm.
You know what I mean? It's like you could be going double palm to take a break from home. You don't want to be home right
And
now.
double
And then
palm.
they go
No
to and
pun
relax.
intended.
You go down there, you go by
Pun
yourself.
intended.
You're taking a mental break.
No pun intended.
Yeah,
You're taking
understand?
a break from home.
Yeah.
You're taking a break. You
It's
understand?
an
From home.
analogy,
You understand?
people. Don't take it
Yeah,
seriously.
you know what I mean? But people can automatically feel so, and like Rebecca say with the whole taboo thing, right? Somebody might say, well, I know she's a therapist.
Yeah.
And look, I see Brandon car pulling in there. Brandon's a madman. No? We're gonna he doesn't really be talking some shit sometimes, and I feel he's a crazy man.
Fact.
So,
Yeah.
Can
And
be
because we
therapy.
live on an island, that also makes it like pretty
Can be
interesting.
unnecessarily aggressive.
yeah. At time I went to I went to a doctor's office to get some antibiotics for somebody for a cold, right? And well, somebody saw my car park up there and assumed that I was there doing something else.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Like
You go on a doctor office for antibiotics
all right,
for somebody else.
I realized that I'm not being transparent, right? I really went. My daughter was sick, right?
Oh,
bring
okay,
it.
okay, okay.
Don't
Yes.
bring baby girl in this.
No, my daughter was sick. She had the
Story
cold
was
for,
done,
she had the
she
cold
carried
for
it.
over a week, and she wasn't losing the cough, right?
Right.
So I went to get some stronger cough because the Histalan thing wasn't working, right? So I went there to get that for her. And a person would have seen my car park up in the and apparently the doctor does have this other service that he does, right?
Oh,
Yeah, he
okay.
has this other
Quick on the
service.
feet, boy.
That's a lot of
That's a
GPs,
2-in-1.
To be fair, but
Yeah, he has this other service that he does, right? So when persons see persons go there, and it just so
They
happened
draw
that,
their own conclusions.
yeah, but it just so happened that the doctor that I usually visit for her wasn't in office that
Available.
day. So I just went anywhere else because I know it was just for a cough, so it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So it's not to say like, you know, it's a big deal. And as I say, the man services is mostly used for another thing.
Right.
So a man called me and what going on with you? You understand?
I see a car.
Yeah, what you do with? Like that kind of vibes, you understand? Like I go in there to buy a hot Coke or a hot Guinness or something. Like that kind of way. So, you know, people, they might say you go by a therapist, they might say you're crazy. You know, like, so the virtual thing, I think is a good thing. Virtual for everything. It's nice.
It is.
Yeah.
I know Karen was mentioning antibiotics, but I just kept us spinning. There, for the most part, my experience with therapy was a positive one.
Yay.
If I had one
Sorry.
complaint, and I also like had this complaint from other people who went to therapy, is that sometimes therapists really do try to push medication. So like for me in particular, I remember my therapist was trying to push me on Zoloft or Valdez, and those things are like serious.
She tried to what?
You just
She
trying
tried
to push
to
me on
medicate
medication.
him.
Zoloft.
Zoloft and well,
Yeah, that's bad people.
No. No.
Well,
Zoloft is an antidepressant.
we know
Antidepressant
Brandon
is
didn't
not
take it.
Depression is not madness.
All right, I take that back.
Wow.
But I know Zoloft. I know Zoloft, and I was given, I was prescribed Zoloft already for
And it make you
something.
feel like a
And
crazy
when I
person?
Google,
So at that point in
when
time
I
you felt
Google
mad?
it, I realized,
At that point in time, you felt mad.
well, I know I wasn't mad, which is why I didn't take it.
So let me just
So you do
comment.
it then.
That's correct.
I didn't take it.
Let's
Wait,
go.
hold on.
Try to hold him down.
So I really see something in Kendall room there, a kind of straight jacket looking thing, and man, you tell me that the latest designer. Nice Dior, Mark, nice Dior season 23.
But no,
Is that straight jacket?
how I am, I always Google. I'm sure everybody's do that. Google drugs.
You should.
But I was prescribed Zoloft already, and nothing to do with therapy or anything like that. And when I Googled it, I just found like the reason to use it and even some of the side effects, which is why I said what I said. And I mean, it might just be me talking, just being a Trini and talking out of pocket. But some of the symptoms I saw it was for, and the side effects, it made me decide to myself that I'm not taking this.
I was the same way too, but because of my profession, I kind of have to know. So when it is they put me on Zoloft, he was trying to get me to go on Zoloft, I was taken aback. Because in my mind, at the time, I didn't feel like I was depressed. I just felt like there wasn't much people I could have talked to about specific things. And even like, I was trying to talk about it with people, and I felt like I didn't have the words for it. Mm-hmm. And like, the reason why my sessions with my therapist was so well is because she helped me articulate things that I didn't know I could articulate. Mm-hmm. So, and she made me talk about things that I didn't even think about in a very long time.
Yes.
So, I was right in that sense. I was very glad I didn't go on. There was also anti-anxiety medication and all too. That I'm very glad I did not go down that path. But
You took
I
any
do.
medication?
No, I didn't take any medication at all. I refused all medication. I really didn't feel like it was that bad.
You think that is part of the agenda to give you meds?
Well,
Well, let's ask.
I know in general.
Let's ask. At what point in time do you, like,
Yeah, would you prescribe?
at what stage?
Recommend.
Or is it
Recommend,
really
yeah.
a discretionary thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, did you want to finish?
Well, just one more point,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it comes across discretionary, and I'm not saying this to put anybody on blast, but I do know there are doctors that kind of run, like for example, if you're trying to treat a fever, you don't necessarily need to run to antibiotics. You could go and use over-the-counter cold and flu medication, and if you're not seeing a reduction in symptoms,
Oh, Bush.
Then
you would resort to
Yeah,
antibiotics.
these things should be last resort.
But,
But some of them will go to it one time.
Send you straight to antibiotics. I understand why though, because if trainees are, you go to a doctor's office, they tell you use over-the-counter drugs, they pay the money for the consults, and then the over-the-counter drugs don't work. So in their mind, the doctor not making no sense. So they go by the next doctor now, and he put you straight on the antibiotics, and now you have a patient for life because he's saying, I went by this doctor, he wasn't making no sense. But I went by this other doctor, and he put me on this, and I get good today for tomorrow.
Also, I think it's the justification of the visit price too. So it's like you're paying a visit price.
Yeah,
and
all of
you're
this for
getting a
that.
prescri-
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Correct.
yeah.
So tell me to go and take time, you know?
So I saying if I was your doctor, I saying I could take you a visit price and give you a prescription and tell you need these drugs. Worse again if I have a pharmacy. You understand? So it's like I double up on you there now, like that kind of way.
Well, under those circumstances, I understand why they kind of would push certain things to make sure for something like therapy. A lot of people in Trinidad don't
Concierge.
have faith in therapy. I remember when I spoke to about 3 friends about my interest in therapy at first.
What was your friend's reaction?
2 of them was telling me, but your ass happy, you don't need to. One, which was this one, you say, well, if you're feeling like you need it, go ahead and do it.
Very nice.
And
Can't see.
oh, sorry. Yeah. If you're feeling like you need it, go ahead and do it. And I just went ahead and do it. I was not
Karen, is he supportive?
My mama tell me feeling some type of way. I wouldn't say, but hey, that is madman thing. Well, unless it's really
Madman thing.
You know what I mean? Unless it's really
Whatever
madman
that may
thing.
be.
But I mean, like sometimes when I feel like based on the way he was explaining himself to me, I feel like if I tell him to do it, I'll do it anyways.
I really was going to do it.
So,
So might as well
no,
be
well,
on
I
the.
might as well be
Yeah.
real.
Take back my kudos, girl.
But I'm being real though.
No, I was
If it
definitely
was
supporting
something
others.
that seemed detrimental to his health,
Right.
or in any kind of way, his person, any way at all, I would have told him not to do it.
Right.
But people gonna do what they want to do anyways. You know what I mean? But I would be a real friend and tell you, hey, this is really not making sense. But you know, based on what you was explaining to me, like it was too much for me. Even like if somebody tried to tell you certain things, like what you have a friend and they
overwhelming.
try to tell you certain things, I'd be
Yeah.
like, whoa.
That's a lot.
This is
I
something
just ask
that you
you,
need
how
to,
you going, dog?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
this is something that you need to go on, you know, get that straight now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you feel like you need to see somebody whose profession is that, why not? You know what I mean?
So just bringing it back to the medication thing. So I mean, 2 points on that. One, it is discretionary. So as a psychologist, I can't prescribe drugs.
right, you can only recommend.
Right? I could only recommend or suggest because I am not a medical doctor. So I want to say that if any therapist is not a medical doctor and they're prescribing drugs for you, that's
Okay.
Right?
Let me just make that clear. My
Yeah.
therapist did not prescribe, but she was.
no.
heavily
You said
suggesting-
recommend. You said recommend. I just put in that out there
What if
because a
you're
lot of
doctor
people.
and a therapist, like,
Sorry?
I wonder if you could do a 2 for 1 day. If you could be a doctor and
A psychiatrist,
and,
yes.
and double up on them.
You couldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You double up on
Yeah.
them.
those
I think there are
medications, those
some
mental health
psychologists who
medications
are
very
like
No, what she's
doctors.
trying to say is there's a
Psychiatrists.
one
Psychiatrists,
Well,
right.
they are psychiatrists because
Yeah.
there's medicine, like
Yeah.
doctor.
So
Yeah.
psychiatrists are actually
But
medical
psychologist
doctors.
is a
Yeah.
different line of study.
Yeah.
So you could just recommend.
Police belief thing, and it had men who tried,
What
but
is happening?
they can't do that.
The police, what?
And belief now.
Tries to be discretionary.
Oh, you can't do
They
it too.
can't do it. Okay, so it had men who was that, and then this or this, and then that, and they try to, you know, but you can't do
You
it.
can't mix it. That's
Yeah.
what they call that? That's
Conflict.
conflict of interest, yeah.
You can't do it.
So
But
in
it's Trinidad, they could get away with that.
oh,
Nah,
pops.
nah. You just had to
Not
go
on
and-
this podcast.
Right?
Men try it.
Not on this podcast. So that's the first thing, right? And a lot of medical doctors do prescribe without necessarily taking into consideration the entire
I'll send you a message.
mental emotional context. Right? So I found that a lot. Like I would have clients come and they'll be like, well, I went to a doctor and he put me on so and so when I say I was feeling depressed. Right? So there's not much that I mean, some medical doctors will listen, etc., but a lot of them tend to, this is what you say, put you on this. In terms of suggestion, a lot of people are fearful of becoming dependent, and rightfully so, on medication, right? But
Yeah,
the
that
thing
was
is,
that was my mental at the time.
yes, but the thing is, and again, understandably
Mine too.
so, yeah, not everybody is different, right?
I
So
feel that same way.
there are some people who can't take cough medicine because it really impairs them, right? And there are some people like that's nothing because remember everybody's body chemistry is different, right? So it's much the same with any kind of medication, especially if your family has a propensity towards addiction, right? It doesn't mean automatically that you will have that, but the probability increases.
It's there.
Right? So obviously you don't want to do something that could exacerbate that, right? However, there are certain things with mental health issues where it is a matter of the hormone levels or the neurotransmitters in your brain, right? And certain chemicals. And so if that is the issue, you could come and talk to me from now till
No changes,
2025.
yeah, no changes.
It would make sense because it's an internal thing that needs to be rectified. Now that could be done simultaneously. So you could be on your meds and then you could come and you're talking to me and we're looking to see if the changes, because if that does what it's supposed to do, then you're going to be in a better position to receive what I can
Yeah.
give.
So then,
Right?
based off of the line of questioning and communication, there will be indicators to say, okay, I think something more is at work here in terms of, because as
Yes.
I mentioned, is mentioned like a hormonal imbalance or neurotransmitters, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not doing scientific tests.
Yeah.
So therefore, based on somebody's training,
Yeah.
depending on what this person is saying or the journey of your therapy session,
Yes.
you'll realize, okay, no matter how much time we reiterate this or reiterate that,
Yeah.
I'm realizing the person is not accepting that. So is it at that point in time, it's just like, okay, something is not really clicking.
Yeah. And then you raise it and I let my clients know, I say, listen, the most I could do is suggest and or sometimes depending on how, let's say if they're really depressed or they're really anxious, if the levels are really high, I might say, no, listen, this is not my first, because it's never my first course of action. I don't believe like that should be the first thing we go to. Let us look at all the factors, environment, whatever's going on in your life, etc. Let's see what's happening first. Let's see if the talk therapy is going to be beneficial to you. If we could work with that, maybe you might just need to exercise. Right? If you exercise physiologically, we get some dopamine, we get, your endorphins flowing, all of that. But if it is that you do that, you exercise, you feel good, and then 10 minutes later, you're back down.
Yeah.
Right?
But if the
Then-
exercise is proven to help with depression.
Yes,
Yes.
of course. But again, it's
It
never
does.
any one thing.
It really
it's
does help
usually
me.
a contextual, cumulative thing.
I'm not depressed.
Right? So,
Does help.
so if I
I
have
don't believe
clients,
in
I'm like,
depression
okay,
for me.
say you're feeling depressed. Well, let's see. Do you have a social support system that plays a role? Right? Are you somebody in terms of your personality? Are you resilient generally? Can you bounce back? Or are you somebody that those things you really internalize and it really impacts you? Right? Do you exercise? Do you walk? Do you do any of those things? What's your diet like?
Yeah.
Right? So
That
all
is
of
another
those
thing that
things,
will
Food.
affect that.
all of those things
Junk
play a
food
role.
too.
So I try to see, can we look at those things before we go to medication? Before I suggest that. If that is the case, I will refer you to a psychiatrist, right? Who will do that level of assessment and diagnosis and determine if, they believe that you need any medication and what we could try.
Well,
But
that,
in the-
no, go ahead.
But in the case where you say the suggestion, when you suggest, all right, I'll make it into like a more broad kind of thing because I can't say if you did or didn't, and I
Right.
don't really want to go back and forth with you, so
Yeah.
and you will just say after, right? But in the case where, all right, have there been situations where you would have suggested certain or made recommendations about certain medications after you would have went through the aforementioned channels, and is it that the person, well, if you experience, the following results whereby it was truncated, elongated, or just permanency in terms of the medication and going back and forth with you and
Yeah.
no kind of results or anything like that. Have you seen it work? Did it not work? Did it, like, what kind of results you get from
Somebody being referred to for medication and
yeah. Like, have you seen instances where it worked really fast, it didn't work at all, or it just
Instances-
become up like the person became dependent in order to make the situation?
no, in my experience, none of my clients became dependent on it, but there was always that fear. I can't say I had any clients who, medication, let's go, anything. No, most people really do have that fear, and understandably, so it's valid, right? I know people who have been on it, but it takes a while, right, to get accustomed, and I think that adjustment period could be difficult. So remember, it's medication, right? So it's a particular dosage. So you try a particular dosage, let me say over the course of a month, 6 weeks. That's not really working. You go back to the psychiatrist, they'll say, all right, based on what we're seeing, you need more. Or actually, this is too much. We could cut this.
Or even a
Right?
different.
Or even something else. This
Altogether,
isn't
yeah.
working for you. You know, when you're looking at all those ads for various drugs and you see really, really fast come down to the end, they go through all the side effects. Side effects include diarrhea, whatever, with death.
Literally.
You're like, wait.
Literally.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what?
And they say the normal.
Yeah, and everybody's smiling and
that's
the
cool,
foods
yeah,
and
yeah,
ice cream, right?
And then say,
Yes, but it is also have another one that's saying, have you ever taken XYZ?
Yeah. You might be eligible for
yeah.
Yeah.
For-
Down to Johnson's baby powder and all, they have those
be
kinds
liable
of
for
ads,
compensation.
with the tongue.
right? Yeah, compensation. So I think,
Who would have thought that about baby powder? Eh?
listen, so I think it really comes down to,
The real girl who could get a compensation.
I'm getting them frying up.
Brian,
And the
yes?
sun hot these days. Eh?
So it really depends on your body chemistry and how you're reacting to certain things, right? So even with that, like when I say, have you ever considered medication? I don't suggest maybe you should get some Zoloft. Maybe you should get some Paxil. Like I say, listen, I think medication is something we need to think about. Have a discussion with whomever, because some people it might want to talk about it with their partner or whoever. As you know, you do your research, right? I say, but if you're in agreement with that, I will do the referral for you to see the psychiatrist, and they will determine where you need to be.
So, like, when the condition gets better, right? Because, well...
How you analyzing that, though?
I understand where you say to me just now about certain things not working. You're back to the drawing board, basically.
Yeah.
Trial and error kind of thing. But when you realize over a period of time, well, all right, this person is becoming better.
Yeah.
You realize you're speaking to them by whichever tells you may use, I can't say. Is it that they slowly cycle off? Is it like cold turkey, desktop? Is it like...
I would always suggest that you wean yourself off, or that the psychiatrist weans you off. I don't think cold turkey is the best, but I also know people who have done that. they're just like, I don't want to be on this anymore, and they do it, and right. So again,
And
but
how was those persons like? I don't want to use the word relapse, right?
yeah,
But-
some people are fine,
Right.
right, and some people they're back in a matter of time.
Okay.
Right?
They're
So
back.
again,
The
it
other
really
person
comes down to each individual. I'm very much about if this is a person's area of expertise, let them
handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if the psychiatrist is the medical doctor and they are the one who has
Prescribed.
prescribed and administered that drug to you, please go back there to get the advice regarding coming off.
But
Right?
are there guides? Are there like rules guiding what you can talk about or not talk about? So, for example, with medicine, or
Yeah.
there are the HIPAA laws. But in terms of your experience, what you talk, okay, I am coming to you, you are my therapist,
Yeah.
and we have a full-fledged conversation.
You're like, what's it do's and don'ts?
Is
Yeah,
it just a
and that's
matter
what
of
I'm saying, yeah.
an ethical thing, or are there legit guidelines or
Like,
legit consequences?
Something that may even be considered, well, not considered, but that is unlawful to actually do whilst in your practice.
So I'm glad you mentioned HIPAA because we don't have
an established something.
right. So we do have the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Psychologists, and they are working on licensure for psychologists. Right now, working to get in that process. But as it stands, we don't have that, which means that there are certain laws, etc., that just we don't have that. We abide mostly by wherever you train. If it's England, if it's America, if it's Canada, most people tend to carry that training as
You
their
use that,
guideline.
okay.
But
Right?
you're not necessarily going to be held accountable per se if you
Because
violate
that.
that.
No.
Yeah.
So unless it's like a law that has been broken, no. But because this is people and these are their feelings, these are emotions, people come to you very vulnerable. I think every professional, mental health professional, takes a particular pride in holding themselves to a particular standard, right? So of course, nothing off. You can't be tackling your clients. You understand? Right? No, listen, because remember,
That is from I understand what you're saying, but that's from an ethical standpoint.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Remember, legally, that's what I said. We don't
That's
have
what I'm trying to say, like,
guidelines per se,
yeah,
but
and I think every
yeah.
profession, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
every professional thing, like if you're doing something professionally,
Yeah.
there should be literal do's and don'ts by means of
The
like a
ethics of
person
it
should
all.
be able to,
Yeah.
to seek redress by you doing this to me. Like you did this.
So we
I should
all
be able to
abide
hold you
by codes of
accountable.
ethics based on where we train. So for
Yeah.
instance, I did my master's in the States, right? So I would go by American Psychological Association guidelines or the American Counseling Association guidelines, right? So those are what would guide me. So they are legitimate things expressed. But certain things I can't go to jail for.
Like the consequences.
Right? Yeah, the laws in Trinidad and Tobago not speaking to that per se. Right? But it doesn't mean that if somebody decides to sue me that they don't have anything they could pull from to say, well, she did violate.
Yeah,
So
okay.
internationally we have this. Right? So for instance, dual transference. Right? You're vulnerable as a client. That person is, bearing everything. Some clients tend to confuse their comfort with feelings. Right? So that's romantic feelings.
It is
right? And then sometimes there's also transference
get
on the therapist's part.
I was going to touch that. There are a lot of officers who just go over the line.
Officers?
No, I don't
Don't
go
miss
over
that.
the line.
There are a lot of officers. There are a lot of officers of the law.
I mean,
who
I'm
go-
appreciative.
I cross the line. I
They
can't
try
speak
to
I can't
cross the
speak
line,
to
yeah.
the
Tickets that I
person.
didn't get.
I
So
can't
I'm
speak to the
saying,
person. I can't speak. You know what I stopped up? Everybody stopped up.
you feel attacked.
I cannot speak to persons who do that. I can't say. Right?
You can't
But-
speak on their behalf.
Yeah. But me, I try to keep it very ethical, to be honest. I don't like, and it come like, all right, I don't want to song bad, but I'm going to be truthful because on this podcast we are truthful.
Dai Good Talk.
And I do. I'm going to tell you, people just really be seeing the bad side of me and Kendall, but I think that Kendall is somebody that could definitely, Kendall is my good friend, we relate on a lot of things, I sure Kendall is somebody that could relate to this. And you as well, I'm sure this is something that you could relate to, right? You're in a position to help persons. Kendall in a position to help persons daily. Yourself, myself, right? And it's like people come to you for that assistance. No, listen. No, not in a vulnerable way, Brandon. If you understand what I'm saying.
What's happening?
How did you make this about? I'm trying to understand.
How is this about you?
I'm trying to understand.
What happened?
What?
Look, I really don't want to get into the nitty gritty. What
Fair
exactly
enough.
I'm speaking about.
Yes.
Finish your sentence. Yeah.
I know you know what I'm talking about, and I know you know what I'm talking
I know,
about.
but I'll let you land.
Right.
This is who we wanted for president.
Nothing up for
Land the plane.
Oh God. Yeah, what I say, right? It's like this. You notice a person having a particular problem. I'm not being judgmental, right? But you automatically you would ask yourself, would I want to be with a person who has these sort of problems? Like you're not putting somebody down.
Yeah.
You're not putting yourself. You're not putting
I know
nobody
see where
down.
you're going.
Like I don't. You understand what I said? You understand
I need
how
to
you
see.
can relate exactly to
What-
what is I'm
Point
speaking
it out,
about?
All
Right?
right, what are you trying to relate to? I'm guessing,
you
and I'm
understand.
assuming. I mean, I had a situation like that where it was a female I was interacting with.
woman.
She,
A
Cancel.
woman.
a woman. I can't say
Cancel.
that. I can't say that. Yes, the people don't
Bleep
like
out-
us to say
bleep
female.
out
We
female.
don't like us to say female because apparently that's not a real gender.
Okay.
Yeah, there is
Social media.
There's
We'll
no
get into
social
that just
media.
now.
Social
Alright.
media. They're touchy.
Stop
So
talking about it before you get
don't say
cancelled.
female. Don't say female
So
at
a
all.
woman.
A woman.
Right.
So we were interacting, but she was very. She'd always use the card whenever, or always there's always some depression aspect in her life. Something always going wrong. Work, people in work doing this, or it's always something where her life is a disaster, and you can never understand it. And it's
Not only
always
that, sometimes it seems like there's never a solution.
there's never a solution.
And
Yes.
that's more so what I'm speaking to, right? So someone, and that's why I say you would be able to relate to this also, right?
So how
someone
Brandon cannot relate to this?
No, I'm not saying that Brandon can relate. What I'm saying is that
Because
this
you
has
and
happened to me on
Kendall in a
daily
position
basis.
to help.
I saw this happen to you on a
Well,
daily
I
basis.
guess.
I saw this happen to Kendall on a daily basis. You understand? Because
So what you trying to say?
I still
you want to
right?
make me
Brandon
say something.
and Brandon
You're
and
trying
my
to make me say
experience not
something.
valid.
No,
So
Rebecca,
what you
I'm
trying
not
to
saying
say?
that.
As a
I'm not
public
saying
servant,
that.
you people will come to you
You know something?
in
I
the
just
time
gonna-
of need.
I am going
Just-
to ignore Rebecca. This time around, I am
just
going to
asking
ignore.
a
Mark, just
question.
pull the plug on that microphone, please.
Brandon does
So it's like,
perform a
alright.
service every
A
day.
person come to me with this issue, right? And I'm familiar with the issue. I know how to treat it from an ethical standpoint, from a lawful standpoint, and a personal standpoint, because it's something I'm acquainted with dealing with.
Yeah.
Much like your profession, you know how to deal with it from all ends. And it's like, like the person rather cry about it than the situation be dealt with. And it's like no matter what, this person always in this situation. And time again, you understand? They find themselves before you facing the same problem over and over again. And it could be as simple as you making a small life change to you making a large life change. But the results is worth it, because that is what you would want for yourself, right? If you want to get to the other side of this table and it had the Great Wall of China between you and the table, it might take you longer to reach, but you want to get there.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's a hurdle, you might just have to make a hop,
Yeah.
but you will get there regardless. You know what I mean? So you find persons not trying to do what they're supposed to do and rather just
Lament.
they just want to talk about that. They want to.
They love
And
you see, I am assuming. No, I read a lot of books, right? And I think I'm very conscious of me, and I've done therapy before, and somehow I feel like I be a therapist for people. But how I analyze what he's saying there, because I've been around people like that, women, it's like they love the attention that scenario brings for them.
from you.
Yeah.
From you.
Right.
So the person now.
Or they are scared to get a high from the sympathy.
Right. So the person now, as I say, they may confuse that support system. Or maybe they do genuinely like you, because they pick you to offload that onto, which is all fine and well. But
One
you
of
start-
many.
You start asking yourself, why would I want this for my own self? This person is in a stage of their life that they need to kind of.
Sort themselves out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Yeah, he's a bad person. And yeah, you know
Just
what I
right
mean?
now, they're not in a
You're not
position
ready.
that you.
You're
would-
not
yeah.
ready.
But wouldn't you say, I am assuming, but because that's how I analyze it, is that you like attention. Whether you like the attention from me or somebody else, it's like you like the attention,
I
because
think
there's
the
never a
person
solution.
pick, eh?
It's
I think they pick. I
attention
think
seeking
they-
behavior is what he said.
Yeah, but I think that they still pick, eh? I
Well,
think they still pick. Because you might say you're a therapist and that is why they come to you, but they have to like you for you to be their therapist. If you understand what I'm saying, like I might try, like if I never eat KFC and never eat Royal Castle, I might try both of them.
Yeah.
And then I'll just continue to go where I like it.
It
If
is
I
a
like that
relationship like
energy-
any other.
If I like that energy
Yeah.
and that feedback that I get from you, because I might really try to tell Kendall something, you know.
Yeah.
And I will be like, I don't really like how,
He react.
yeah, you understand? And then knowing Kendall, he might say, boy, this is an easy thing to deal with, you know. All you need to do is this and that. But I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for, wait, boy, give me a hug now. And
Yeah.
I'm going to call you later and we'll talk about it more now. And what's the status with this? Whereas, as I say, me and Kendall could relate in the sense that I would tell you what to do. I would even help you do it. But if you don't want to do it, and if you just rather look for that support system, I am a support system, yes. But oh God, they will ride my back forever. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I rather teach you, I rather show you that you could be doing this. You know what I mean?
There
Get
are people who
self-support.
You
don't
could tell
who
Karen
don't
Sugar.
want to. There are people who
Yeah,
don't
that's
want
crazy.
to.
I don't like that.
They're not at the place where they want to move forward, and sometimes that happens in
And I
therapy
don't.
too. Yeah.
That this kind of come like it's stressing me out.
I feel like Karen spoke, even Kendall, spoke to two different types of individuals. And expressing their experience of one type of individual could nullify or invalidate the
Yeah.
other. So, for example, if you have experiences with one woman or multiple women who come into you to Trini saying, praise it on in terms of their experiences, etc., because they want that attention,
Yeah.
attention or even financial or physical assistance from you. That is different from someone that chronically negative or chronically
Yeah.
depressed or chronically cannot see positivity in their
Yeah.
space. They can't help it. So when you're thinking they're just praising you down, they're actually praising on everybody.
Everybody.
Be it their family, their friends, whoever now. So in my, it's like, that's why, I mean, and I was joking about it, but it's not just, I mean, I could get where you're saying from somebody who's in a position to offer assistance,
Yeah.
you will always be approached by
Well, that
people.
was about to pull a string from what you were saying, because I'm speaking. Yes, you spoke about something personal there too, like from a personal experience, but then it's also from a standpoint, like from the, it's two ends of the spectrum for me, whereby I receive it personally and because of the office that I hold.
Right, and so that's why I was saying, based off of you creating the separation where Kendall or myself, Kendall and yourself experiencing that, or even you, is like, okay, I'm assuming that it's from the public office, being in the position
Yeah.
that you are, etc.
Yeah.
But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, two totally different types of
Yes.
individuals there.
Yeah.
There are people who are opportunists.
Yes.
Because you are holding that position, I'm going to be in this constant
Damsel in
state of
distress.
need.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Because but then there are persons who really and
They
truly
can't. They really can't be anything but that.
No,
Correct, they can't help it.
But to be honest, I know that. I was more so speaking of not persons who trying to be that type of way. I'm talking about. I was actually talking about a situation where the person just like they cannot change. Like they,
Well,
they
then
just
it's
can't.
valid where I say,
so-
They're not
so-
like Canada,
ask the
they don't want to.
question.
They
Listen,
could always
It's
change.
valid where I say,
Let me tell you-
therefore,
let me
is
tell
that
you-
everybody
let me
experience.
tell you how-
Everybody could give an example of somebody like that in
Let me
their
tell you
life.
how
Yeah.
bad it was, right? It was literally this bad. It was bad to the point where every time I was familiar with the person, and the person, like, we have a rapport now because I always dealing with this person. So this person knows when I am around and when to call and all these sort of things. And she would just call me and say, this is what going on. And I would just have to say, I'm going on that because, and everybody know I'm accustomed dealing with that. And it reached the point where I will literally reach the location and the man would see me, would he see the little son, the son and all go heal me. You understand what I'm saying? It just that bad. It didn't want to change. Well, not really the man. I spoke to the guy and he was willing, but the woman just
And sometimes we have to
Long
know.
far
We have
gone.
to know when we can't help,
Correct.
and establish that boundary.
I'm,
and that's
I'm
very
obligated
important.
to, you know, so I assist.
Yeah.
You understand? But I knew within myself that was not going to change.
Yeah.
They had reached a point where I was just waiting for separation, basically.
Yeah.
And eventually it did happen. It did happen eventually and I already knew it was going to happen. And I don't like to say, well, I know this and I know that and I know this, but it's just something that I see time and time again. And the times that it end up making the full 180 turn around.
Good job.
You understand? That's like 1% of the time. That's like we never say never, but I have a
based on
fair idea.
precedent,
I have a fair idea as to where it will go when I see certain behavioral patterns, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
that is, people can say whatever they want. Nobody can take that away from me. That is my know-how from my profession, and I do it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not trying to sound like if I real vain or nothing like that, but I know
Facts
how-
are facts.
yeah, you know what I mean? Nobody can take that away from me. Nobody can take the way, nobody can take that what you just do away from you, Ribka, Brandon, same thing, all across the board, you understand? I come like if I come and tell you how to manage, or if I come and tell you how to sell drugs, or if I tell you how to...
Yes.
Brandon.
Yes.
Yes,
Not
yes,
for-
yes. Let
Oh
me
my
even know.
goodness.
Let the
Let the people know the truth. Let the people know the truth.
Oh my.
Let the people know the truth.
What is
Yes.
that too, Mr.
So,
Dry snitching.
tell the people how we can get at you. Facebook, Instagram number, location. I can reiterate that for the people.
All right.
What's not Karen out my
We already passed this.
We done passed that, brother. We done passed that. We done dry snitch. We close the case. We close the case. We close the case.
Yeah. Somebody call me for this thing operation.
Before you give your contact, because I'm assuming we're rounding up.
We ain't rounding up.
No.
We have a million
So
questions
how
here.
on
we are
how on
ready.
earth?
He trying to kill the dry snitch.
Listen,
We are rich back to that.
Let
me-
jail. Go ahead, Kendall.
No, I was going to go in deep. So I'll let you go and then I'll go in deep. I go into question number 4.